Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are pushing past the high-level concept of sustainability.
Right.
We're going to focus on the operational reality of sourcing. We are diving headfirst into regenerative agriculture, specifically for cosmetics and personal care.
A huge and important area.
It is. For you, the learner, our mission today is to cut through the noise. We need to understand exactly how these ingredients from regenerative systems, they're not just a better label story.
Far from it.
We want to know how they measurably strengthen supply chains, improve product performance, and crucially, ensure your brand is compliant in a marketplace that is.
Well, it's obsessed with data-backed green claims.
It demands it now.
Okay, let's unpack this.
And that operational view it's absolutely essential. I mean, the source material makes it so clear that regenerative farming is much more than a niche trend.
It's a system. It is a systemic shift. The focus is on rebuilding ecosystem health, soil health, water cycles, biodiversity, and at the same time, delivering verifiable, data-backed environmental benefits, the kind that both consumers and regulators are demanding.
So let's jump right in there, the core value proposition. If I'm a formulator or maybe a procurement officer, why should I care about regenerative sourcing beyond just, feeling good about it?
Right.
What's the tangible payoff?
There are three critical bottom line benefits that really stand out in our sources.
Yeah.
The first, and honestly the most fascinating, is improved product performance.
Product performance. So not just a sustainability metric, but the actual, the chemistry of the product.
Precisely. Here's how it works. When ingredients are grown in these soil-rich systems, we're talking high soil organic matter, or SOM, that soil acts like a nutrient sponge. It leads to healthier, more robust plants.
Okay.
And that often translates to raw materials with greater stability, higher levels of desirable compounds, maybe even better purity. Think about an essential oil for a second. Improved SOM can actually boost the production of secondary metabolites in the plant. And that might translate directly into, say, a more consistent aroma profile or better antioxidant capacity in the finished product. That consistency in emolliency or color or aroma, that's a tangible quality improvement.
That's a powerful connection. So soil chemistry is directly impacting the final product chemistry on the shelf.
Exactly. The second benefit is the necessary reduction of your environmental footprint, which satisfies that growing regulatory and retail scrutiny. And finally, number three is market alignment.
What do you mean by that?
Well, this type of sourcing is basically non-negotiable now for these big structural shifts toward clean label and ethically traceable products. It directly supports new mandates like the EU's looming product passports, ESG reporting, and most critically, the governance around green claims.
Product passports are a big concept. It keeps coming up. For anyone listening, can you just briefly clarify why that's so important here?
Certainly. In cosmetics, product passports aren't just labels. They represent a future where you need granular digital records that trace the entire life cycle of an ingredient.
From the very beginning.
From farm to bottle. Documenting everything from the farming practices used like regenerative methods to the emissions during processing. So regenerative sourcing, with its intense focus on data collection, is pretty much building the infrastructure you need to satisfy that digital history.
So we're talking about verifiable data being required not just for marketing, but for market access.
Yes.
That makes regenerative organic certification, or ROC, a crucial benchmark. Then, right, it seems to cover both the environmental and the social aspects.
It does. ROC is designed to be comprehensive. It ensures convergence around verifiable soil health metrics, water stewardship, biodiversity, and the fair treatment of farm workers. But achieving ROC for all ingredients, especially at scale, that's a challenge.
Right.
And that brings us to how brands are actually doing this on the ground.
Okay, the logistics question. How does a brand that needs serious volume access these high-quality inputs while balancing all the inherent risks of, dealing with farming and ensuring that deep traceability?
It's a great question. Brands have to leverage resilient models, and they often rely on a blend of different pathways to get that scale and mitigate the risk.
Okay, so what's the first one?
The first pathway is direct farmer partnerships and contract farming. This is the highest control model. It allows for really intense collaboration.
So the brand is talking directly to the farmer.
Exactly. They can provide agronomic training, customized seed selection, and ensure practices align perfectly with their quality needs. Think about controlling the specific terroir effects on a specialty oil or botanical extract.
But doesn't that pathway introduce a huge operational headache? I mean, suddenly the cosmetic buyer has to worry about weather patterns and harvest yields. Isn't the risk massive for a brand relying on just one farm?
It is, and that's where the second pathway comes in, which is crucial for spreading that risk. Cooperatives and supplier networks. Ah, so you aggregate.
You aggregate. This model brings together smallholders across different regions. It achieves the scale you need, but it also ensures that if one area suffers a drought, supply from another can compensate. These cooperatives are essential for providing standardized data packages. Things like soil health metrics, input logs, combined harvest yields. It just simplifies the brand's reporting.
Okay, and what's the third?
And finally, the most common reality is the blended pathway. This is where brands combine fully ROC-certified ingredients, maybe for their premium lines, with other regenerative crops like coconut or sugarcane that are sourced through project-based collaborations.
And what holds it all together?
Traceability platforms. They are the connective tissue. They knit the data together across diverse farms and mills and processing facilities to maintain that end-to-end visibility.
That blending strategy just makes perfect sense for commercial viability. You use the highly certified stuff to anchor your claim, and then you use the broader network for volume.
That's it. So this growing standards ecosystem, it's complex. I mean, the number of certifications can be dizzying. What's the number one mistake brands are making trying to navigate ROC versus, say, a standard like Demeter?
Here's where it gets really interesting, especially from the compliance side.
Okay.
The mistake is viewing certification as just a marketing claim instead of as a data validation process. ROC is steering this convergence precisely because its criteria require verifiable data to back up the claim.
So about the proof.
It's all about the proof. While Demeter offers these unique product stories focused on biodynamic principles, which is great for narrative, brands have to understand where ROC excels, and that's in providing that standardized third-party verified data on things like soil carbon sequestration and social metrics.
Right.
A robust regenerative standards map is now essential to navigate all this. We had a quote from an industry compliance director in our material who stressed that this is what helps brands avoid greenwashing entirely. It ensures every single claim, whether it's about water use or carbon reduction, is backed by a recognizable certification and auditable data. It's about moving the conversation from hopeful aspiration to demonstrable verification.
And verification requires a massive infrastructure investment in traceability and due diligence.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the digital tools and the farm-level data that underpin this whole system.
The rigor required for end-to-end provenance it's intense. Brands need batch-level records, digital platforms, and increasingly blockchain-enabled ledgers to support audit trails and their ESG disclosures. This isn't a paper trail anymore. It's a living digital history.
And what about the data from the farm itself? How granular does it get?
Incredibly granular. We're talking about collecting data on key soil health indicators, like soil organic matter percentages, specific biodiversity indices, detailed records of cover crop adoption, water usage.
So everything.
Everything. And crucially, auditors are not just looking for a snapshot. They are tracking evidence of sustained improvement in carbon and soil health outcomes over multiple seasons.
And all this intense data collection feeds directly into a global regulatory tightening. The cost of getting this wrong is just escalating, isn't it?
Absolutely. The regulatory environment is the real driving force here. In the EU, they're tightening due diligence obligations and non-financial reporting. That impacts everyone's sourcing internationally.
And in the U.S.?
Over in the U.S., the FTC is focused on cracking down on deceptive green claims. They're pushing brands to substantiate every single word with credible data and third-party verification.
So the key action for any brand listening is what?
It's surgical. You have to map every single sustainability or performance claim directly to a verifiable data source, a certification record, a life cycle assessment, validated farm data to align with these evolving guidelines. There's no room for ambiguity.
Okay, let's pivot to the practical reality for formulators. This is the big aha moment for a learner. What changes when a formulator is working with regenerative inputs? It sounds like you're moving from ordering off a catalog to practically managing a farm. That's a huge shift.
It is a massive shift, and the main implication is dealing with variability.
Variability.
Yes. Historically, formulators rely on consistent, highly processed inputs, often with synthetic stabilizers to ensure that consistency. Regenerative inputs, however, are subject to natural seasonality and the organic evolution of farm practices,
Which means?
which means they may exhibit subtle variability in supply, in composition, texture, even aroma from batch to batch. For example, an oil harvested in a wetter year might have a slightly different viscosity
Right.
or a different fatty acid profile than one from a dry year, and that can subtly impact ingredient functionality, things like emulsion stability or the final product texture.
So how do formulators mitigate that variability without just resorting back to synthetic buffers and sacrificing that clean label promise?
The mitigation strategy is critical, and it really requires investment in the quality control process. Formulators have to build robust QC protocols. That means early-stage pilot runs, accelerated stability testing,
So more testing up front.
a lot more testing, running comparisons across batches before you commit to full scale. They also need to design formulations with built-in buffers, maybe using alternative ratios of base oils or other functional ingredients to accommodate that variability without compromising the final product.
Are there any other practical tips?
The source material had a few good ones. It suggested maintaining a deliberately small portfolio of ROC-validated inputs at first, just to gain expertise. Also, standardizing your supplier data inputs so the documentation is consistent. And collaborating closely with materials scientists who can quantify those subtle performance changes and predict how they'll affect the finished goods.
It sounds like a necessary investment in QC that leads to far better long-term resilience and, frankly, a more unique product story.
I think so.
Let's ground this with some specific examples. Can you walk us through a few case studies that show this model is commercially viable?
We have 3 excellent examples showing viability across different scales and ingredients. First, let's consider regenerative cocoa butter. By sourcing this from ROC-partnered farms, one brand achieved verifiable improvements in soil health. But more critically, the regenerative practices like diverse cover cropping resulted in deeper root structures.
And what did that do?
It provided a steady supply of cocoa even during localized drought conditions. It mitigated a major climate risk that traditional farms suffered from.
Wow, that's resilience in action. What about more complex inputs like fragrances?
The second case focuses on vanilla and other fragrance inputs. Working through established cooperative networks yielded 2 main benefits. One was improved aroma stability, which is obviously essential for fragrance. The other was enhanced supply predictability.
And there was a social component, too.
A huge one. The strong cooperative governance also ensured strengthened farmer income, which added a powerful social pillar to the brand's ESG reporting. That's a critical outcome for investors and consumers.
Okay, and the last one.
Finally, the example of regenerative coconut oil, which was sourced through those blended ROC pathways we talked about. This one really demonstrated data-backed performance stability.
Oh.
By integrating digital traceability platforms across all the smallholder farms and the pressing facility, the brand was able to provide transparent, quantifiable data for its product lifecycle reporting. They validated performance and environmental claims at the same time.
So while the upfront costs might involve serious investment in data infrastructure and supplier training,
Actually, they do.
they are offset by long-term gains. Gains in price stability, supply resilience, and a vastly stronger, auditable ESG narrative.
Precisely. The outcome is commercial viability that's anchored by robust data and governance, and that is rapidly becoming table stakes in this industry.
This has been an incredibly thorough look at moving regenerative sourcing from concept to reality. For our learner listening, what's the final summary? What's the immediate call to action for brands right now?
I think it means that regenerative sourcing is no longer just a marketing option. It's a strategic requirement. It demands a foundational investment in traceability infrastructure and, crucially, in building the capability of your suppliers.
So you have to invest in your whole supply chain.
You do. And this investment in data is what supports regulatory compliance and consumer trust simultaneously, because the market is only rewarding claims that can be proven.
And looking ahead.
Looking ahead, we expect to see far broader ROC adoption, more standardized measurement benchmarks, and much more sophisticated tools for quantifying soil health and carbon outcomes. This evolution will only increase the pressure on brands to substantiate their green claims.
That brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. Regenerative sourcing is not just a sustainability commitment. It is being redefined as a strategic differentiator that directly supports both growth and consumer trust. So, with tightening regulatory enforcement in the EU and the FTC crackdown on vague green claims, How might this massive required investment in traceability infrastructure and farm partnerships fundamentally shift the competitive landscape for those major cosmetic brands who have been slow to invest in this type of transparent, data-driven system?